The Silent Dawn. The morning sun on Serenity Prime painted the agricultural domes in shades of gold and amber. Governor Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the colony's central administration tower, watching 20,000 colonists begin their daily routines. Children ran through the education sectors, their laughter echoing through the transparent walkways. Scientists tended to the hydroponics bays that had turned this once barren world into humanity's most successful agricultural colony. The air itself seemed to hum with contentment and purpose. Marcus had governed Serenity Prime for 8 years, watching it grow from a frontier outpost to a thriving world that fed 3 neighboring systems. The colony represented everything humanity had learned about sustainable expansion into the cosmos. No military presence, no weapons platforms, just families building a future among the stars. The colony's charter specifically designated it as a peaceful settlement, protected by interstellar law and the assumption that civilized species honored such distinctions. His assistant, Sarah Wong, approached with the morning reports. The harvest projections looked exceptional. The new medical facility had successfully treated its first 1,000 patients. Birth rates were up, indicating the colonists felt secure enough to expand their families. Everything pointed to continued prosperity and growth. Sarah smiled as she handed over the data pad, commenting on how her daughter had just started her apprenticeship in the Botanical Research Division. Life on Serenity Prime offered opportunities that Earth, with its billions of inhabitants, could never match. The first sign of trouble came as a shadow across the sun. Marcus looked up, expecting to see a routine cargo vessel arriving for the weekly food shipment. Instead, the sky filled with angular black shapes that seemed to devour light itself. The Zerathi Dominion had arrived. Their warships descended through the atmosphere like falling knives, each one bristling with weapons that had conquered 100 worlds before humanity had even discovered faster-than-light travel. The colony's emergency broadcast system activated automatically, sending distress signals toward Earth and the nearest human military outpost. But Marcus knew the truth that every colonist would soon realize. The nearest help was 3 weeks away at maximum burn. They were alone, unarmed, and facing a species that viewed mercy as weakness. The Zerathi had chosen their target well, striking at humanity's most vulnerable point to send a message about who truly ruled this sector of space. Supreme Overlord Krextar's image appeared on every screen in the colony simultaneously. His forearms spread wide in what his species considered a gesture of dominance. His voice, translated through universal processors, carried the weight of absolute authority. Humans had expanded too quickly, claimed too many worlds, disrupted the established order. Serenity Prime would serve as an example to teach humanity its proper place in the galactic hierarchy. There would be no negotiations, no surrender terms, no survivors to spread tales of Zerathi mercy. The first plasma bombardment vaporized the agricultural domes. Marcus watched in horror as months of carefully cultivated crops turned to ash in seconds. The Botanical Research Station where Sarah's daughter worked disappeared in a flash of superheated light. The medical facility with its 1,000 patients became a crater of molten glass. The Zerathi weapons were precise, methodical, designed to inflict maximum psychological damage on any observers. They started with the symbols of achievement, then moved to the infrastructure and finally to the residential sectors. Parents tried to shield their children, though they knew it was futile. Lovers held each other as the world burned around them. Scientists frantically tried to upload their research data to quantum storage, hoping something of their work might survive. The colony's teacher gathered her students in the underground shelter, singing songs to keep them calm even as the ceiling began to crack from the bombardment above. Every act of courage, every moment of defiance, every gesture of love in those final minutes defined what it meant to be human. Marcus remained at his post, coordinating evacuation efforts he knew would fail, maintaining communication with Earth until the very end. His last transmission was not a plea for vengeance but a simple statement of fact. 20,000 humans had lived here in peace, harming no one, contributing to the galactic community. The Zerathi had chosen to destroy them simply because they could. He hoped Earth would remember that distinction when deciding how to respond. A single escape pod launched during the chaos, carrying a young communications technician named James Park. He had been performing routine maintenance on the quantum transmitter when the attack began. The pod's automated systems engaged before he could protest, preserving him as a witness to the atrocity. For 3 weeks he drifted through space, reviewing the footage his pod's sensors had captured. memorizing every detail of the massacre. The galaxy needed to know what the Zarathi had done. When James finally reached the Earth Defense Command Station at Proxima Centauri, his arrival triggered the largest mobilization in human history. The footage from Serenity Prime played in the United Nations Assembly Hall, in military command centers, in homes across every human world. 20,000 peaceful colonists, including 4,000 children, reduced to atomic dust in less than an hour. The Zarathi had expected humanity to retreat, to abandon frontier colonies, to accept a diminished position in galactic politics. President Elena Vasquez stood before the assembled leaders of Earth's nations, her voice steady despite the tears on her face. The Zarathi had made a fundamental error in judgment. They had studied humanity's recent history of diplomatic solutions and peaceful expansion. They had not studied the deeper history, the times when humanity had been pushed beyond the breaking point. They had not understood that humans possessed a capacity for both infinite compassion and unlimited fury. The same species that could build gardens in space could also forge weapons from stars. The president's words echoed through every human settlement, from Mars to the frontier worlds. No more diplomatic protests, no appeals to galactic councils that had stood silent while Serenity Prime burned. Humanity would speak in the only language the Zarathi understood. Total war. Every shipyard would run continuous shifts. Every able-bodied human would contribute to the war effort. Every resource would be directed toward a single goal: the complete and utter destruction of the Zarathi dominion. Within hours, the transformation began. Civilian factories retooled for weapons production. Mining operations in the asteroid belt tripled their output. Scientists who had devoted their lives to peaceful research turned their brilliance toward creating more efficient ways to kill. The same ingenuity that had terraformed dead worlds would now be used to return living worlds to dust. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to adapt, to overcome, to endure. Now that strength would be focused into a spear aimed at the heart of the Zarathi Empire. The volunteer recruitment centers overflowed with applicants. Parents who had lost children on Serenity Prime, siblings seeking vengeance for murdered brothers and sisters, complete strangers united by shared grief and common purpose. The Zarathi had killed 20,000 humans. 700 billion remained, and every one of them now had a personal stake in what came next. The peace-loving species that had tried to find its place through diplomacy and trade would disappear. In its place would rise something the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity unleashed. Admiral David Thompson, recalled from retirement, took command of the growing fleet. He had spent decades studying alien military tactics, hoping never to use that knowledge. Now he would apply every lesson learned to a single objective: make the Zarathi regret they ever learned humanity existed. His strategic planning sessions ran around the clock, incorporating input from thousands of military minds. The plan that emerged was not about conquest or occupation. It was about sending a message that would echo through galactic history for millennia. 3 months passed in a blur of activity. Ships rolled off assembly lines at rates that defied belief. Weapons that existed only in theoretical models became reality. The entire human economy restructured itself around a single purpose. Artists became welders. Teachers became tactical instructors. Doctors learned to pilot medical frigates. The transformation was total, voluntary, and terrifyingly efficient. When the Zarathi destroyed Serenity Prime, they had awakened something that had slumbered in humanity's collective soul since it first emerged from the caves of Earth. The reckoning storm. The assembled human fleet defied comprehension. 700,000 vessels hung in formation near Jupiter, their combined mass actually affecting the planet's orbital calculations. Admiral David Thompson stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution, a kilometer-long dreadnought built in just 60 days using new rapid construction techniques. Around him, holographic displays showed fleet sections organized with military precision. Each ship bore the name of someone lost on Serenity Prime, turning the entire armada into a memorial that could fight back. The diversity of the fleet reflected humanity's desperate creativity. Massive battleships bristling with railguns that could accelerate projectiles to 90% light speed, swarms of single-pilot fighters equipped with antimatter torpedoes, hospital ships that had been retrofitted with shield generators powerful enough to protect entire fleet sections, mining vessels converted into kinetic bombardment platforms. Even civilian pleasure yachts had been armored and armed, their wealthy owners insisting on joining the crusade. Every human who could fight had found a way to contribute. Thompson's second-in-command, Captain Lisa Rodriguez, had lost her entire extended family on Serenity Prime. 37 relatives had moved there seeking a better life among the stars. She now commanded the Dreadnought's weapon systems with cold precision, each targeting solution a small act of vengeance. Her story was repeated hundreds of thousands of times throughout the fleet. This was not a professional military force conducting a strategic operation. This was a species responding to an existential threat with primal fury. The quantum jump coordinates for Zarathi Prime had been calculated and recalculated obsessively. Every ship would arrive simultaneously, creating a sphere of death around the enemy homeworld. The Zarathi would have no escape routes, no time to mount a coordinated defense, no opportunity to call for allies. They would experience the same helplessness they had inflicted on Serenity Prime, multiplied by the full might of human innovation and rage. Thompson gave the order, and space itself seemed to scream as 700,000 ships tore through the fabric of reality. The emergence into Zarathi space created gravitational waves that could be detected 3 systems away. Where there had been empty void, suddenly there was an ocean of human vessels, each one broadcasting the same message on all frequencies. Images of Serenity Prime before and after the attack, the names of 20,000 dead colonists scrolling endlessly, a simple statement in every known galactic language. You killed our children. Now we kill your empire. The psychological warfare began before the first shot was fired. Supreme Overlord Krextar received the reports in his throne room aboard the Zarathi command station. 700,000 human ships. The number seemed impossible. His entire species possessed perhaps 8,000 military vessels. His advisors insisted the sensors were malfunctioning, that no species could build such a fleet in 3 months. But Krextar knew better. He had studied humanity enough to know they were capable of impossible things when properly motivated. He had simply never imagined he would provide that motivation. The Zarathi defense fleet scrambled to respond, but their movements seemed sluggish compared to human coordination. Where Zarathi doctrine emphasized individual ship superiority, humans had built their strategy around overwhelming numbers and perfect synchronization. Fighter squadrons moved like schools of fish, each pilot connected through neural links that let them think as one. Capital ships created overlapping fields of fire that turned space into a 3-dimensional kill box. The first Zarathi cruiser to engage lasted 17 seconds before being reduced to component atoms. The battle, if it could be called that, unfolded with mathematical precision. Human railguns fired in calculated sequences, their projectiles arriving at the same instant from different angles. Missile swarms overwhelmed point defenses through sheer numbers. Electronic warfare ships disabled Zarathi communications, leaving each enemy vessel isolated and blind. The humans had not come to fight a battle. They had come to conduct an execution, and they had brought enough ammunition to do it properly. Captain Rodriguez watched her tactical display as another Zarathi battleship disappeared under concentrated fire. She felt no satisfaction, no joy, just a cold sense of purpose being fulfilled. Her youngest niece had been 8 years old, had loved to draw pictures of the binary sunrise on Serenity Prime. That child's artwork now decorated Rodriguez's quarters, a reminder of what the Zarathi had destroyed. Every enemy ship eliminated was a small payment on an impossible debt. 20,000 lives could never be restored, but their loss could be avenged with interest. The Zarathi civilian population watched their military disappear in real time. Defense platforms that had stood for centuries vaporized in seconds. The orbital shipyards that had built their conquering fleets became expanding clouds of debris. Their warrior culture had never conceived of defeat on this scale. They had ruled through fear and superior firepower for 3 millennia. Now they discovered what it meant to face an enemy that had moved beyond fear into something far more dangerous. Purpose. Krextar's final council meeting took place as human ships began orbital bombardment of military installations on the planet's surface. His generals argued for surrender, for negotiation, for any alternative to complete annihilation. But Krextar understood what they did not. Humanity had not come for conquest or resources or even revenge in the traditional sense. They had come to deliver a message to every species in the galaxy. This is what happens when you mistake our kindness for weakness. This is the price of murdering our innocent. Admiral Thompson received the surrender broadcasts from Zarathi Prime with stoic silence. The enemy offered territorial concessions, Resource tributes, technology transfers, anything to stop the bombardment. His response was to play the recordings from Serenity Prime. The colonists' pleas for mercy that had been ignored. The children's screams that had been silenced. The Zarathi had shown no mercy to the defenseless. They would receive exactly the same amount they had given. The bombardment continued with mechanical precision. The human fleet maintained its position for 72 hours, systematically eliminating every trace of Zarathi military capability. Ships, stations, ground installations, even the factories that might someday build weapons. Nothing was left but wreckage and ruins. The civilian population was spared, but they would live with the knowledge that their empire had been dismantled in 3 days by a species they had dismissed as weak. They would rebuild eventually, but they would never again threaten humanity or anyone else. As the fleet prepared to depart, Admiral Thompson broadcast a final message to the galaxy at large. Humanity had not wanted this war. They had come to the stars seeking friendship, knowledge, and peaceful coexistence. Serenity Prime had embodied those ideals. The Zarathi had chosen to destroy that peace. The response had been proportional to the crime. Any species that wished to be humanity's friend would find them eager allies. Any species that harmed human innocence would discover that humanity's capacity for vengeance exceeded their capacity for violence. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. Not a single celebration occurred aboard any human ship. They had done what was necessary, nothing more, nothing less. The galaxy now understood that humanity possessed both the capability and the will to protect its own. The 700,000 ships would be maintained, improved, and expanded. Never again would human colonies stand defenseless. Never again would 20,000 voices cry out unheard. The age of human vulnerability had ended at Serenity Prime. The age of human deterrence had begun. James Park, the sole survivor of Serenity Prime, stood with Admiral Thompson as Earth came into view. He had spent the entire campaign aboard the flagship, bearing witness to humanity's response. The young man who had escaped in a maintenance pod had aged years and months. He would spend the rest of his life ensuring the galaxy remembered what had happened, both the atrocity that had started it and the response that had ended it. History needed to record that humanity had not chosen violence. Violence had been chosen for them, and they had simply proven better at it than anyone imagined. The fleet dispersed to defensive positions throughout human space, but the infrastructure remained. The shipyards continued producing vessels. The recruitment centers stayed open. The message was clear to anyone who cared to look. Humanity preferred peace but had prepared for war. They would extend their hand in friendship to any who would take it. But that same hand could close into a fist that would shatter worlds. Serenity Prime had been humanity's innocence. The Zarathi had killed it. What remained was something harder, sharper, and infinitely more dangerous. Humanity awakened.